Today in the Dietary Restriction Kitchen, we're going to make a pasta dish. It's a little bit different than the usual, but really delicious and really great as a quick and easy, but beautiful one to share with someone you care about. Very adult dish though, and that is pasta with clam sauce, gluten and dairy free. A wonderful dish to share with a loved one. So let's see how we got there today. Hi there, welcome to the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I'm Nat Ryan. You know, almost everybody loves a good pasta dish, including those of us who have to be gluten and dairy free, right? But sometimes we don't want just the usual, spaghetti and meatballs or mac and cheese. Sometimes we like to have a pasta dish that's a little bit more special, but at the same time, we don't want to break the bank. Now, today's pasta dish we're going to do today, if you like seafood, should be a winner. And that is a very simple but classic dish called, linguine with clam sauce. But we're not going to do it quite with linguine, but we will do it with GF pasta. And so I'm calling it pasta and clam sauce. And we're going to do it very simply today. It's going to be wonderful, and it could be the basis for a wonderful dinner for two, and maybe even a romantic dinner. So we're going to get started by going over the ingredients. Okay, so for the ingredients, of course, for pasta and clam sauce, we're going to need pasta. So I'm choosing to use the spaghetti, which is a Go-Go quinoa spaghetti, my favorite brand. It's rice and quinoa spaghetti, so I'm using that. I couldn't find linguine, actually, in gluten-free variety. So we're going to just use the spaghetti today. We're going to use 2 cans of baby clams, so whole baby clams. We're going to have, there's a little bit of white wine in the sauce, just about a half a cup. You don't want to put wine in, you don't have to, but it does give it that little bit of flavor. We're going to use a little bit of vegetable broth. We may or may not need this at the end, just to thin the sauce. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We're going to use a little bit of fish sauce. The recipe that I originally found asked for anchovies, suggested anchovies. I could not find any. I didn't want to use any other fish. Anchovies would melt in the sauce, and that would be nice. But we're going to use a little bit of Asian fish sauce. That'll bring up that fishy sort of flavor, so we're going to use some of that. We've got 2 cloves of garlic there, so we're going to do that. We need a little bit of vegan margarine for the end. They said butter, but we're going to use vegan margarine. We're going to use some basil this way. You could use fresh basil as well. So I have the basil that we use, so it's already prepared, and it's in a squeeze thing. So yeah, we need some olive oil, of course. We're going to need a little bit of breadcrumbs. It's like to make a topping for it at the end. So we're going to do that. Some salt, of course, so salt. And we also have some garlic powder, some dried basil, and a bit of red pepper flakes. So we're going to use all of that, and not all of it at once. We're going to get to the very first stage, which is going to be making our little breadcrumb little topping thing, which is an optional, but it really adds that little bit of crunch at the end when you're going to serve it. So we're going to start with that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the little breadcrumb topping. Okay, so it's like a little thing you want to put at the top. So we're going to put our breadcrumbs. I'm using a coffee grinder today. You could put it in a food processor, or kind of anything that you can mix this up. We've got some garlic and a bit of basil and some salt in there. Okay, we're going to put that in there. And we can give this a little whirl in here. Get them all a little whirl together. Woo! Okay, and then the other thing we're going to need is a little bit of olive oil. So let's get my measuring spoon here. And we need about a tablespoon. About a half of a tablespoon. So I took a tablespoon and did about half, and we're going to throw that in with it. And then we're going to give it another pulse. So we're going to give it another go here. Going to kind of cake up a little bit. There we go. So we take that out. And as you can see, it looks like kind of like that. We're going to just dump it in a little bowl. Okay, we got a little bit of caking action in there, so that's why I just like to do this. And we're just going to put it like that. And that we're just going to set aside. We can use a little bit of that at the end, just as a garnish, just as add a little topping to it if you like. But it's totally optional. But then we're going to move on to the next stage. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is to get a pan of water. With water, right, and a bit of salt, and get it on the boil. And we're going to be doing everything else for this recipe in a big frying pan. So we've got the water started, and so now we're going to get the rest of the sauce made. All right, so we're going to do, while the water is starting, it's not boiling yet, we're going to drain our baby clams. So we want to save the liquid. So I've got it over a bowl here. And I'm just going to, I've already opened the can, and I'm just going to dump it in there, okay? And we get the other can of it too. So we're going to be generous. You could make this with just one can of clams, but we're going to be very generous on the clams, because otherwise I hate to cheat it, right? You know what I mean? Okay, so then we got the juice in the bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a piece of paper towel. Very quickly, what I'm going to do is take that out. Ooh, those are juicy, right? So we're going to try to get as much of that out of that as we can. So we're not like, okay, set that on that paper towel really quick. We're going to take the juice, and I'm just going to put it in a measuring cup. So we can use that later, right? So that's going to go in with the sauce as well. And then I'm going to take these clams and just put them in that bowl. So now we've got our clams ready. And we will get started in the frying pan next. Okay, so our water is just about boiling here, so we're going to throw our pasta in. And I personally like to break it in half, but that's me. You don't have to if you don't want to. That's entirely up to yourself. There, broken in half. Okay, I just find it easier to deal with slightly shorter pieces of pasta, but that's me. Maybe it was from me when my kid was young and all that. It was just not, you know. So there we go. That's the pasta in. Now the pasta, when we cook this, we want it to be just barely al dente. Okay, we don't want it to be very cooked at all, like just barely cooked, because it will cook some more in the sauce once we get the sauce made. So I'm going to move over to the other side here. I got to go around my camera. Okay, so now we've got the pan, and I've got it on sort of a medium low, and I can feel the heat coming on there. So we're going to take our olive oil, a couple tablespoons. I'm not even going to measure that. I'm just going to go whoop, because that's what's lovely about olive oil. We're going to give that a little swirl. I'm going to get my favorite implement for doing that. Excuse me, got to go around the camera again. So, using my actual camera with my new microphone. So this is all new, me doing it this way. Okay, so we got a good amount in there. I love using that to do it, okay. And we are going to put our garlic in. So, a couple of cloves of garlic, sort of chopped, okay. It doesn't need to be super chopped. You can mince it, you could crush them if you wanted. We're going to get that going. Okay, so now our garlic is nicely golden, and we're starting to get it gold. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. We're going to add our red pepper flakes, so we get that in. We're going to add our fish sauce. So it's about a tablespoon of fish sauce. There we go. We're going to add some of this in. Whoa, 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 whoa. Thing is with this pan is it really heats up fast. We're going to get some of our basil in. Now, fish sauce is stinky, okay? So about a tablespoon of that. So this is our basil. I got just prepared basil that way. It could be up to 2 tablespoons of basil. So at this point, that fish sauce is going to make it very, very stinky, okay? So you're going to go, what the heck, okay? What the heck indeed. Okay, so now we need to get the wine in. Okay, so I got the wine open finally. My goodness, it took me a minute. And then I'm going to it's about a half a cup of wine, white wine. So we're just going to put that in there. We're going to turn that up to medium high, but I'm just gonna like really punch it right now because I don't want my pasta to get cooked too fast before I'm ready for this. So we're going to get that on medium high. We're going to let that reduce a little bit. We're gonna let that, when you have it, if it boils a little bit, their sauce, if you've got wine in it, what comes out for the vapor, a lot of the alcohol content will go up out of it with the vapor as well. But this is really a recipe for the grown-ups, I would say. If you wanted to make this for children, just don't put the wine in. That's all. Use some vegetable broth or something, but don't use the wine. So I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. So medium high, but not super high. We're gonna let that go for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna check on my pasta. I'm gonna go to the other side to check on that. So let me just jump and check on this stuff. It's going quite well, but I know that that's not ready. They're still pretty stiff. So we want it to be al dente, but just barely al dente, because the pasta will finish cooking in the sauce, right? So in with the sauce when it's completed, right? So there we go. So we're going to get that reduced just a little tiny bit. Oh yeah, so there we go. All right, so it's reduced down a little bit, so you can see it's still liquidy, but it's not like as much as it was. We're going to add all of the clam juice in. So remember we reserved clam juice. We're going to throw that in, right? So we're going to get that going on here. So yeah, so then I'm going to punch it back up a little bit, and we're going to let that slightly reduce. So I just want to get that going, bubbling away for about a minute or so. I'm going to check on my pasta again. So let's get that checked. Like I say, I want to keep checking on that pasta because I want it to be just into the al dente phase, and I don't think that's there yet. Let me just pull one out. Yeah, and just kind of go like this. Still got a really hard center to that, so no. So it's not quite there yet. I mean, you could eat it, but it's not even pleasant to eat right now. All right, so as you can see, that's going to bubbling away nicely. I'm going to turn that back down again. Okay, so cast iron pan, I like to go right low because it holds that heat for quite a bit of time. So we're going to turn that really low, and this is where we're actually going to add our baby clams in. So we want that low. So really, basically, the baby clams don't need to cook. Now, a lot of clam sauces pardon me, keep playing, have a lot of actually clams still in their shells. This is a really easier version of it because then you can see that's full of clammy goodness. So there is our basis of our sauce. So we've got that just on, we can pop that back up to sort of a medium low. So yeah, so we've got that on there. And then we need to check on the pasta. We need to get that pasta to that, just at that al dente stage. We're going to drain it and then put it in with the sauce. So that's where we're going to be next. Okay, so I've gotten the pasta to be just barely, al dente. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that to the pan with the sauce. We're going to toss that in the sauce, and we're going to let that continue to cook. So that pasta needs to continue to cook, right? It's not barely there. So we got a few more minutes to let the pasta cook in with the sauce. So we are still at a medium low. And yes, so we need to do, so just for another minute or two, we're gonna, and it's quite soupy sauce, but you're gonna see as that pasta continues to cook, it will absorb more of that liquid. So I'm just gonna toss the heat up just a little bit, because what I want to do is encourage that instead of like, because doing it on camera as well, there was a tiny pause between me draining the pasta and putting this in here. So it wasn't like immediately hot. So we're going to let that sort of absorb more of the liquid and make sure that the pasta is all the way cooked through, and then we'll serve it out and give it a try. Okay, so the pasta is ready, so I'm just going to serve some of that out. So we use bowls because this pasta is quite liquidy. I don't know if you can see this, but that sauce in there is quite liquidy. You're going, well, as it turns out, So as it turns out, I want some more clams on the top of there. But yeah, as it turns out, I did not need any of the vegetable broth because we use that, we have it on hand in case the sauce gets too thick, right? In case the pasta just absorbs too much and we need to thin it. So that was why we'd have that. So we're gonna try that out. Looks amazing. We're gonna give it a try and yeah, see how we do. So here's our finished dish. If we like to, we could also add a little bit of those seasoned crumbs, remember, to the top. If you have a little bit of juiciness on there, then that will absorb it. Also, what you can do is add a little bit of the vegan margarine at the end to the pan to kind of make the sauce a bit more creamy and give it that as if it's a bit buttery. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try this in just a second. All right, so there's the big pan of it. I don't know if you can see it here, but I've got my bowl and I'm going to give this a try. Add a little salt and pepper. I have a little squirt of the basil on the top as well. And let's give it a try. It's going to be a little bit challenging because I'm standing here without putting it on like a table or anything. Oh, it looks nice. Oh my goodness, yeah. That's nice. That little squirt of basil was nice too. Yeah, really nice. Look at that. So, those seasoned crumbs were really added. As you can see, it's a little bit soupy, but once you add, if you were to add the vegan margarine to the sauce, really makes that saucy. You've got that little bit of sting from those, the red pepper flakes, just that little bit. You don't have to add those at all, but it's nice. It's a dish that is very seafood-ish, right? With the clams and the clam juice in there. You don't taste the wine really. The wine's just kind of enhanced it, but you don't taste like, it doesn't taste like you're eating a bowl with white wine in it. No, it just enhances that. Use the rest of that bottle of wine to have with the dinner would be perfect. You adjust the seasoning at the end with salt and pepper. You don't want to just go crazy on salt while you're cooking it because the fish sauce will add a lot of saltiness to it, right? Or if you're using anchovies, if you happen to find anchovies instead, and we're using that in the sauce rather than the fish sauce, then that would add a lot of saltiness too. So you don't really need to add salt as you're cooking the sauce, but there is a little bit in the seasoned breadcrumbs mixture that we made. Wow, that's good. Here, it is 5:04 a.m., so I'm actually going to save this for lunch today. 5:04 on a Saturday morning. I'm going to save the rest of this for lunch. I'm going to have it for lunch on Saturday and probably dinner on Monday. Again, this will keep in the fridge. Any leftovers will keep in the fridge for up to 3 days. There's plenty here to have at least 2 people. Or let's say you are having another couple over. So you and your partner and another couple coming for dinner, you could make something like this, assuming everybody likes seafood, and with a nice salad, maybe some other gluten-free rolls or something like that. Beautiful dinner to have with company. You can have the rest of that bottle of wine with dinner. Lovely to have. So I hope you give it a try. I really like it. It's different. It's a different kind of pasta dish. If you like seafood, I think you'll like it. So thanks for stopping by today and visiting me here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you are enjoying the videos on our channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.